Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mysteries of Asia. Today's story is not for the faint of heart, so viewer discretion is advised. We are talking about Javad Iqbal, who confessed to killing 100 boys in Pakistan, many by dissolving their bodies in a vat of acid, in what was Pakistan's most horrifying murder case. Javad Iqbal Mughal was born on October 8, 1956 in Lahore, Pakistan. He came from a wealthy family and was the sixth child of 8 siblings. His father is Muhammad Ali. Oh shit, the boxer? Probably not. His father is Muhammad Ali Mughal, a wealthy businessman and trader in Lahore. And despite the privileges of his upbringing, Iqbal's early years were marked by troubling behavior as his father spoiled and rotten him. As a child, he struggled with disciplinary issues, often clashing with authority figures. In his early 20s, Iqbal started his own business in 1978 when he was an intermediate student at the Islamia College Railway Road. His father bought him 2 villas in Shadbagh. Wow, his father bought him 2 villas. So lucky. Life of the rich, eh? And Iqbal set up a steel recasting business in one of the houses and lived there for years along with boys. So he was already quite a creep, I guess, in his early 20s, already living with boys in his home that his father bought him. Other family members learned of his bad habits when they also moved to Shadbagh, but Iqbal would not allow them to interfere in his life or speak against the boys accompanying him. So during this time, his family was already very suspicious of his weird behaviors, like him always hanging out with young boys, which is already a giant red flag. Why is he hanging out with so many young boys? Why? That's so weird. Isn't it? For several years, Iqbal resisted the efforts of his family to arrange his marriage. But one day, he stunned everybody by declaring that he had selected a bride for himself. She turned out to be the elder sister of one of his boys. The purpose was to stop the boy from deserting him, according to Javad Iqbal. The marriage, which took place on 1983, only lasted for a couple of months, obviously because it wasn't true love. He was in fact in love with young boys. In the late 1990s, a man filed a complaint against Javad Iqbal for sodomizing his son. Shadbagh police detained his father and 2 brothers after their failure to arrest him. They remained in custody for 7 days, but Iqbal did not surrender. So the police, instead of arresting Iqbal, which they probably couldn't find, they arrested his family instead, which is his father and 2 brothers. But however, on the 8th day, one of his boys was arrested by the police and was detained at the police station. This time, Javad Iqbal immediately ran down to the police station to surrender himself. And this goes to show that he placed his boys on a pedestal, even more important than his family. Later, he himself surrendered to secure the release of the boy. Following the death of his father, Iqbal received a hefty share of 3.5 million rupee from the estate. So with that amount of money, he constructed a large house in Rana Town, Shadara, with a pond in the basement and a swimming pool in the backyard. He loved moving around in style and was often seen driving in a 5-door Pajero along with half a dozen boys. 5 doors? So cars have 1, 2, 3, 4 doors. Where does the 5th door go? On the roof? On the back? Then that's just a boot, right? Yeah, I'm not really a car person. Adam, my editor, I think you're a car person, right? Can you show a picture of the 5-door Pajero now? Once he owned 4 vehicles, a Pajero, a Lancer, a Toyota, and a Suzuki FX, said one of his old friends. Not super expensive cars, I don't think, but still being able to afford 4 cars back then, and in Pakistan, it is quite a feat already. Javad Iqbal eventually sold his Rana townhouse and shifted to a new residence in Fatehgarh, Ghaziabad, and opened a video games shop. Why did he open a video game shop? I think you guys already know where this is going. The video game shop. Everything that Javad Iqbal did was aimed at luring boys, and this includes the video games shop. The video game shop is the first of its kind in Shadbagh, and he would offer tokens to boys at reduced rates and in some cases free of cost. And one of the tricks that he would execute to get close to boys is he would occasionally throw 100 rupee notes on the floor and watch the boy who would pick it up. Then he would announce that his money had been stolen and he had to search everybody. The thief would be caught and taken to an adjacent room where he would be sexually assaulted. At times, the money would be given back to the boy as a gesture of goodwill. But eventually, when people stopped their children from visiting the shop, Javad Iqbal set up a fish aquarium and later a gym, again to attract boys. He also set up a fully air-conditioned school, but it failed as nobody was willing to send children there, likely because of his already very bad reputation. He also opened a fair price shop where items of daily use were sold at a price lower than the market value. That too lasted for just a few weeks. Going broke. On a fateful night in September 1998, Iqbal had ordered a service of a 15-year-old masseur. Halfway through the session, he molested the teenager, and when he was done, he fell asleep. Desperate for revenge, the traumatized teenager invited his friend in while Javad Iqbal was asleep, and together they beat him up so badly that Javad Iqbal sustained serious head injuries and slipped into a coma. Yes! Fuck you, man. Yes. He remained unconscious at the Lahore General Hospital for 22 days. That's very nice to hear. I know it's violence, but I mean, come on, Javad Iqbal, he deserved that beating. As nobody in his family was willing to spend money on his mounting hospital bills and treatment, his Ghaziabad house, car and shops were sold off, and the money was used for his treatment. So even his family didn't even bother to pay or help him during his time of need when he was seriously injured in the hospital, because he was just such a despicable person. On getting better, he was shocked to find out that almost all his assets had been sold. His life of luxury had been ruined. He eventually moved back with his aging mother, who cared for him, but few months after he moved back, his mother suffered a heart attack and passed away. So now Javad Iqbal was left all alone. The beating, the lot... Did Sushii just took a dump on my floor. I think she's just allergic to this bullshit story, she's disgusted at Javad Iqbal. So at this point, Javad was at his lowest point in life. The beating, the loss of his business and wealth, the loss of his parents caused all hell to break loose within him. And after weeks of deep thought, he finally found something or someone to blame. He found a target, a purpose, and proceeded to create a plan of revenge during his lowest point in life. And this is what he said. "My mother cried for me. I wanted 100 mothers to cry for their children." And now we move on to the crimes. For 6 months, between June to November 1999, Javad Iqbal committed a series of horrific crimes that shocked the nation. He engaged the services of 3 of his most trusted young boys: 17-year-old Sajid Ahmad, 15-year-old Muhammad Nadim, and 13-year-old Muhammad Sabir. Together, they lured young boys. Most of them had families, but some were street children and runaways aged between 6 to 16, 6 years old. And he lured them to his home on 16B Ravi Road with the promises of food, shelter and money. Runaway child with little money, this is a very tempting offer, and you would fall prey to this disgusting man. Once the boys were in his clutches, Iqbal would strangle them with a rope. After murdering them, he dismembered their bodies and disposed of the remains in vats of acid to destroy any evidence. He meticulously documented each murder, keeping detailed records and even taking photographs of his victims before and after their deaths. He maintained a diary where he logged each murder, describing the method and the disposal of the bodies, down to how much it cost to dispose of the bodies. And here we have a video of all the boys that he interacted with, that he murdered. They all look very young, some even showing a gleaming smile, like unbeknownst to the horrific fate that was to fall upon them. The confession and arrest. In December 1999, Javad Iqbal sent a letter to the police confessing to the murder of 100 boys. As the details within the letter felt like it was something so unfathomable, the police didn't want to pay too much attention to it. What? But they reluctantly still went to the address from where the letter was mailed, 16B Ravi Road. So even when Javad Iqbal sent a letter confessing to his horrible crimes, the police even didn't take much mind to it. They just brushed it one side. They didn't really think much of it, which kind of just blows my mind. Why did he even confess to the crime?
Because this is his purpose.
Yeah.
He wanted 100 mothers to cry.
Public records of what happened at the house that day revealed just how unprepared the police were in dealing with the master manipulator. Iqbal was home, but as police questioned him about the letter, he began to behave erratically. At one point, he took out his gun and threatened to shoot himself if he wasn't left alone. Police didn't take him into custody. They didn't even bother to go inside the house to check. If they had bothered to, they would have found the mounting evidence within, but they left and let Iqbal keep his licensed gun. It's very hard for me to fathom this. I guess because we live in Singapore, and if this were to happen, it's like confirm kena already.
Parents probably tried to go to the police, but then everything was just kind of swept under the rug. Or like some of these boys, they are orphans. Yeah, nobody cares about these kids. Within 6 months, 100 young boys missing and nobody, tried to do anything about it.
Iqbal, now frustrated that the police weren't taking him seriously, he mailed the same letter along with pictures of dozens of boys to the office of Jang, Pakistan's most popular Urdu language newspaper, which just goes to show that he really just wanted attention, he wanted to be known. The heavy envelope landed on the desk of Jamal Christie, editor of the newspaper's crime section. After going through the contents of the envelope, I thought there could be two possibilities. Either someone was trying to frame him, or this man has really done it, Christie said in an interview. In the letter, Iqbal shared the names and addresses of the boys he murdered, and even described minute details, such as the shapes of their faces and the type of sandals they were wearing, and what body parts aroused him the most. He disclosed how much it cost him to buy the acid, how long it took for a body to dissolve, and who helped him. If the story is true, it will be huge for the newspaper, and it was important for the newspaper to check the house where Iqbal claimed he had left evidence. Christie and a colleague found 16B Ravi Road on a dead-end street. The house was abandoned and padlocked. No one was there. However, the journalist and the colleague decided to scale the wall, and inside, they found blue-colored plastic canisters and bundles of clothes and shoes, just as Iqbal had described in his letter. A strange stench hung in the air. They removed the cover of one of the canisters and were hit by a pungent whiff. Inside, the canisters were what appeared to be half-decomposed human remains suspended in liquid that smelled like formaldehyde, a chemical used to preserve bodies. The newspaper contacted families of some of the missing boys whose addresses Iqbal had meticulously recorded in his diary and shared in his letter. When it was confirmed that the boys were actually missing, the journalists decided that they had enough evidence to write a story. The next day, December 3rd, Jang printed the story on its front page under the headline, "Claim of Murder of 100 Kids." The newspaper published the names of the victims along with pictures of 57 of the slain boys, many of them wearing cheeky smiles. All hell broke loose as soon as the issue hit the stands. Police confiscated 2 large blue drums and more than a dozen plastic cans from Iqbal's home that contained a mix of hydrochloric and sulfuric acids. Inside one of the blue drums, investigators found a human torso. In the other, 2 feet amputated at the ankles and a chopped up hip girdle were discovered. And after almost a month long of manhunt, Iqbal eventually surrendered himself to the office of Jang newspaper, and not the police station.
He was afraid that if he went straight to the police, they would just kill him on the spot. So he felt that it was safer to go to the newspaper office instead. When the police came, they even controlled the crowd also because there were so many parents and people.
Yeah, but it's so funny that it took him sending his letter to the newspaper outlet for the police to come down hard on him. You know, when he went to the police first, the police didn't care. Here you can see a picture of a mother, her sons have been taken by Javad Iqbal, and clearly she's very distraught even, and I'm guessing this is the husband. This is a picture of them outside the newspaper office. He walked up to the newspaper's reception desk in worn-out slippers with days-old beard and in clothes smeared with dust. And he said, "I'm Javad Iqbal, the killer of 100 children." He spoke to journalists for an hour, detailing how he had committed the murders and disposed of the bodies before he was handed over to the police. The interview was recorded and would later be used as evidence in court against him. The trial and sentencing. Iqbal's trial began in 2000, and it was one of the most high-profile cases in Pakistan's legal history. During the proceedings, Iqbal at one point even denied all charges against him and said that he was innocent despite the mounting evidence of his confession previously. So quite erratic behavior. At first he wants to get caught, he sent the letters and everything detailing accounts of his murder. When he actually got caught, he said, "No, actually I didn't commit the murders." His lawyers claimed he had staged the killings just to highlight the issue of runaway children. And a small number of people even took Javad Iqbal's side. And this is because it actually was a serious problem in Pakistan back then. Runaway kids and cases like these were indeed just swept under the rug. After pleading not guilty, Iqbal became a nuisance in court, as he knew fully well that this was a high-profile case and the police wouldn't dare to trash him like other criminals. He showed no signs of remorse and teased the judge with silly errands like requesting for a hot meal and a warm sweater in the middle of the trial session. The court eventually found him guilty on multiple counts of murder and sentenced him to death. The judge ruled that Iqbal and Sajid, his helper, were to be hanged at Minar-e, Pakistan, and that their bodies were to be cut up into 100 pieces and dissolved in acid in front of the families and victims. Wow! His death Iqbal and Sajid, his helper, were sent to the maximum security Kot Lakpat jail. And while he was awaiting execution a year after their conviction, Iqbal and one of his helpers, Sabir, committed a double suicide in their prison cells. No. No justice. They used their shirts as ropes to hang themselves, according to the police. Iqbal's lawyer and family suspect that police killed them because Iqbal had wanted to name some senior government officials who had attended his parties and abused children. I see. So that's a theory lah. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, something fishy is going on there lah, you know. There probably is connections to like authoritarian figures or like people up there, you know. Perhaps that's why he's so confident lah, you know, because he has the connections and he thought that his friends in high power would help him get out of this. To this day, Iqbal's brother and lawyer insist that he didn't kill anyone. They say that he constructed a narrative, planted the evidence and hoodwinked the investigators just to gain notoriety and publicity. Yeah, I don't know about that lah. That sounds a bit far-fetched, right? If anything, why would you construct this horrifying narrative of killing 100 boys if you just want attention? And that's the story of Javad Iqbal. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know if you want me to discuss any other stories, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!